Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia Esposito, VP of Content for the Retail Innovation Conference and Expo, and I'm thrilled to have you with us for this little bit of a sneak peek into one of our key sessions featuring Crystal Anderson, co-founder and head of creative for A Very Good Job. Hi, Crystal. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be talking to you today and also to be coming to Rice in Chicago. So excited.
I know. And personally, as a fan and follower of your work, I was thrilled to have you join our program and excited to give the folks watching this a little bit of a sneak peek into what we'll be chatting about during the session. So first off, you have been behind some incredible experiences and activations throughout your career. So first question, bit of a background question. How did you get into this world of events and eventually activations? And for those of the folks watching that may be new to you, maybe there are some things that they know about, like in terms of projects, but are not quite connecting the dots. So maybe give them a teaser on some of the work that you've done.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like most experiential producers, since it is such a new term, a new sort of world, you don't go to college and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and invite a bunch of people to one space and then have them like smell a wall or put a blindfold on or like be in a room full of disco balls. And so it was something that sort of happened accidentally. I worked in fashion for a really long time behind the scenes, and then moved over to this company called Tough Mudder, which was like super startup, very like not at all who I am, personally, started working at HQ and then would go on site. And that was my real first foray into seeing like what paid experiences look like. And then from there, I sort of caught the bug and started, coordinating events. And then, as my career sort of moved on, producing events, things like 29 Rooms, which really was sort of the first experiential event that I had ever seen on a large scale anyway. And then things like Museum of Ice Cream, sort of these like fun, people call them selfie factories now, but back then they really were sort of the first foray into people sort of stepping out from behind their phones and being able to like experience the world in really fun, cool ways.
Yeah. I think that note around like people don't necessarily go to school to be an experiential producer or anything. I think that's something that a lot of folks watching this may align with. Like it may speak to them a little bit because I know like in retail and customer experience, even in retail marketing, you don't really set out on that path all the time. You just kind of fall into it. So I think that's a really interesting note and takeaway. And like you said, you were a producer on the original Museum of Ice Cream, which I know a lot of folks know about. And now you're doing some really great work with A Very Good Job. And I have to ask, because a lot of the folks watching this may be thinking about their own experiential strategy, wondering what this may mean for their brand and, of course, for their customers. Like, what do you think makes these types of experiences unique and valuable for the visitors and ultimately the brands that build them? Because like you said, like you don't always think like, oh, I want to reach my customer, I'm going to create this room of disco balls or, have them take a selfie with this activation. So like, how do those dots connect to create real value?
I mean, I think, especially now after folks having, been sort of in lockdown and we were just like forced to like be in front of a screen and everything was right here and you were just like sort of using your imagination, being able to get back out into the world and have brands tell real stories and be in control of those stories is so important. I think that experiences like are the luxury brand. Former founder when I worked at Tough Mudder always said that, and it really resonated with me. And I feel like now more than ever, people are ready to get from behind their screens, especially for brand loyalists. So say, a person really loves whatever retail brand that might be out there, or whatever, network, whatever it may be, to be able to go into, a space and experience it from sort of the inside out, I think is what people are really after now. Like they want to be able to touch and hold and experience the brand outside of just like going into a shop and seeing the clothes. Like they understand, fundamentally understand what that experience is like. Everybody has gone shopping with their mom for new school clothes or what have you, and that's sort of the trajectory of what it is to be an adult. You go into a store and you go shopping. But to take it a step further, you're saying, hey, I know you're already doing this thing, but let me show you what we really are as a brand. Let me take you through this experience of what our brand really means. And I think that's what really develops super duper brand loyalty, is having these other experiences, whether, and some of those can be in a retail environment. So you can build those things inside of a store, or you can have a separate event, or inventize, shopping experiences, or, for, a very good job. A lot of our work is in television and film. And so we're really sort of eventizing sitting down and watching TV, or watching a film, because, it's not like, back in the 90s, early 2000s, where you had to be in front of the TV at 8 p.m. to catch a show. You can watch it anytime. So we're really trying to encourage people to sit down and pay attention to, there's so much noise happening. There's so many shows. There's so many things. There's so many brands. How do you get your customer to just sort of like zero in on what you're trying to create?
Yeah. Yeah, there are a few things that bubbled up in your response there. So that idea of creating or reaffirming the brand loyalist, right? Like bringing them deeper into the
Mm-hmm.
brand. That idea of focusing on the brand, the story that you're trying to tell, and creating that resonance. But then
Totally.
you kind of brought up, I think, this notion of like community around the experience, which I think is
Totally.
really important, because anyone can, shop, using this right here, right?
Yeah,
But the
exactly.
power sometimes is when you can get that feedback from your friend, or even if it's like a
Totally.
creator or an influencer, like having that network around the brand or around the product can sometimes create a more impactful experience. And I guess this connects to the work that you're doing now with a very good job. And we'll get into, I think, the brand and client roster in a little bit. But I'm curious about like the approach, right? Because now as experiences come to the forefront and brands are trying to do this more, it's like everyone wants to be a producer, right? Everyone wants to kind of
Yeah.
create these moments. So what
Yeah.
is your approach, or more broadly, a very good job's approach in making each of these moments feel relevant to the brand and aligns with their goals, but still feels like very special, unique, and different? Like, how do you kind of approach things?
Yeah. I mean, my partner and co-founder, Keish, always says, what do we have license to talk about? That's how we go into a project. Okay. So we're working with HBO Max and Just Like
Love
That, which is
love that
the Sex and the
project.
City series that just came out. And so when we were thinking about this project, is it okay if I stand up and talk about this one?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So when we were talking about this one, what we know about Carrie is that she loves shoes, right? And so when we were thinking about what are we gonna, how are we gonna send this box out? Because for us, these influencer mailers are activations. They're just, you get them at home. And so we decided to build, I don't know, it's like for scale, it's like a 4 foot shoebox made to look like a Manolo Blahnik, because if you're a fan of the show and the movies, that that's her favorite shoe.
Right.
So that's where we started, and that's where we start with a lot of the projects. For instance, this project is blind spotting series on stars, and it's amazing. It's a fold out, fully fabricated footstool made to look like a couch that appears in the series, because the couch is really sort of the character's first like adult purchase. And so we really wanted to bring the recipient into that moment. And so when they watched the series, they were like, oh, I get it. I understand exactly what that means. And so for us, we have no problem being both conceptual and literal at the same time. It's like trying to like toe that line of making something really interesting and fun, but something that also harkens exactly back to whatever project we're working on. One of our most recent ones was, oops, sorry, was, this is such a cool project, heavy project, but this is for Showtime's Yellowjackets. And
Ooh.
so we completely fabricated this wood box. This is a rune from the show that we had a actual brand made, like our fabricator branded every single box with like wood fire. And then let's see if the sound is still on. Okay, so the sound's not on. But, we put postcard in there that's like from the
Mm-hmm.
series. And then we did these
This
really
is so
cool like
cool.
bags.
We're getting a special tour. I love it.
I could talk about this. Oh,
That's the sound.
yeah, it's like this
Oh my God. I love it.
scary. And then we did the Letterman's jackets from the series. We had them custom made, and they have sort of gone viral. And it's because people are like who got them just immediately understood how it tied back to the show
Mm-hmm.
and just furthered the fandom of a series that people were already watching. And that's sort of really the crux of the work that we do.
Yeah.
We're not looking to reinvent the wheel. We're not looking to, you know, we're really trying to just have a moment where people can connect with the series. They see this, they've probably seen it on social, they've seen it on the key art, but now they have a piece of that. And you can't really buy the ROI that you get for an experience like that. Like people are the amount of like people on social being like, how can I get one? Where'd this come from?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. And we do a lot of social listening as well, which I think spans all brands, all modalities of marketing and agency work, is really listening to the customer, listening to the fans. They'll tell you what they want, and then we build that.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that.
Yeah,
All right, so this kind of ties to the next question I had because obviously, these are incredible projects. I love that there are connections to the environment, the set, the life that these shows and media moments are creating, right? Like that's what draws people into a show like Yellowjackets, and of course, and
totally.
just like that. Um, but how does that translate to a brand that's just selling stuff, right? Like, how do you create those moments? Like, what learnings can brand and retail leaders take from like the power of like a media brand and apply it to the moments that they're creating?
Totally. I mean, I think the first thing is really leaning into the fandom, really leaning into what people are saying on social. Like I think that's a really easy way to sort of, make that transition is that, again, fans are going to tell you what they want. And it's up to you to figure out how to, reverse engineer that into your either marketing or your retail spaces. For me, like, yeah, so let's say, there's a clothing brand in there or whatever, the brand that just sells things, retail brand that just sells things. You're probably not going to send out 1,000 influencer mailers. That might not be the right
Mm-hmm.
strategy for them. But what can be taken away from that work is how can we put something in store? What's something that people can go into these shops and experience? Because that is the difference between them just going online and buying it directly from the website or going in store. Like some of my favorite shops in New York, why I don't just like buy it online is because I really enjoy the customer experience. There's something about it. Like the fitting rooms are really cool. There's like this like cool lighting. I can take great pictures and show like my friends like, oh, what do you think of this look? One of my favorite shops is this little vintage shop, and they have like scratch and sniff stickers at the cash wrap. It's like something so silly, but it feels really nostalgic, and it's one of those little like fun experiences that I know when I go to that shop that I'm going to be able to like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm checking out, can like do my thing. So I think that that's one of those special moments, which really sets certain retailers apart from others. I probably wouldn't like there's just certain things that I don't need to get out in the world because no one has shown me that I need to get them out in the world. So I just order them on whatever retail shop that makes sense. But there's other things, other pieces, other things that I buy that I only go to a shop for because these retailers have created an experience that I want to have
Mm-hmm.
in store and not just like sitting on my couch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely something that we're going to be digging into a lot during the event in June. And I think our conversation is going to provide some tactical elements to that conversation. And I know you've worked on some incredible projects, have worked with some amazing media and retail brands. This may be a bit controversial, but do you have a favorite that you've worked on, or one that really stretched your creative thinking and you were really surprised by the outcome?
I think I'm not one of those people who's like they're like my
I know.
kids. Like, I
I
mean,
was gonna
I
say,
find
is it
each
gonna
one
be
is
like
like
picking?
no, each one is really fun, and there's like memories that are tied to each one. But I really loved what we did for Hulu and Onyx Collective. Reasonable Doubt is a series produced by Kerry Washington, and they came to us, and they're like, "Hey, we have this new series," and it was the show premiere, so it had never been on the air before. There was nothing really to besides the trailer and some key art to really sort of like tell people what this series was about. And the show was or is about a female attorney, black female attorney. And so I'm going to grab this box so I can show you as well. So instead of fabricating this one, we bought like actual legal briefcases.
Mm-hmm.
We had them strapped. We got these like leather file folders made. And had all of these like really cool printed assets put in there with like a legal case file featuring one of the stars of the show, Michael Ealy. So we had that, and then this was another one that sort of like took off on social just because it was such a great, like almost like a Russian nesting doll experience. So
Mm.
people got this and had no idea what was going to be in it. Let's see. So you open it up, and it's all like for us, it really is the devil is in the
Yeah.
details. And so like we had a pin made that had the legal company that the main character worked on, and then sort of the like magic moment. We worked with Telfar, which is sort of like this really great brand,
Yeah.
purse brand. They sent us these, and yeah, we created this whole moment. And then inside there was like a joy box filled with like gummies and all of these like very small moments from shows. And I think that's another important part of this is that we work with a lot of retailers on these boxes. Not everything is super fabricated, so we'll go out to a retail brand and say, hey, we're doing 500 units of this project and we'd love to include you. And obviously a lot of times they're like, that would be great. Like we worked with a sleepwear brand, Kuyana. They were super happy to be a part of this. And then, they get an ROI because, all of these like really cool influencers are posting their retail, pieces and different SKUs. We had a like Fitbit. We work with Fitbit.
Right. Right. So they get to be a part of the conversation around this bigger story. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that is something that retailers should also be thinking about with like it's not even necessarily about how they can activate within their spaces, but it's like
Mm.
these things are already happening. How can we become a part of these moments? So really paying attention to agencies like ourselves and other agencies within the space who are building these brands. And I think Kuyana actually one of the brands, I don't know if it was them, but reached out to us. It's like, hey, do you have any cool projects coming up? And I was like, you know what? We do. And
Oh,
that is
okay.
how,
Yeah.
we work with them. We bought the I forgot how many units we did for this, but bought the units directly from them. And it was a great partnership. And it was really exciting.
See, that's a really interesting angle that I hope we can dig a little bit more into during our session at the event, because I've been hearing so much around like new partnerships, like ways that, companies can collaborate. And I guess in this case, it presents a new opportunity for brands because it's not just like brand to brand or brand to retailer. It's brand to
Yeah.
media in a lot of ways. And I
Yeah.
mean, like we've seen like, of course, the product drops or, the subtle mentions in shows, but this kind of brings it to a whole different level. But we are sadly out of time for our little preview chat. But before I let you go, I mean, what else are you excited to dig into, even explore during the event in June? I mean, obviously you're coming as a speaker, but is there anything that you're excited to learn about while you're there?
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to learn about so much. I know one of my old colleagues, Nick, who is co-founder or founder of Boyson,
Oh,
is
I
going to
didn't
be
know you knew
speaking.
him.
Oh,
Oh,
he's
that's good
great.
to
So I'm
know.
really, really excited. You know, we've already talked about what food we're going to eat, but I'm excited to actually get to catch up with him because we haven't really talked about either of our companies, and so really excited to see him. And then there's some great, I think a speaker from Pattern is going to be there. There's some really great folks that we're interested in like learning more from. Even though we're not on the retail side, I think there's such a synergy, and we're going to be able to exchange a lot of great information. So I'm really excited about
And
that.
we're so excited to have you. Like I said to the folks watching, the event is taking place June 13th through 15th. We're going to be digging into a lot around, in-store experience, these types of activations, and of course that collaboration opportunity that we're seeing more and more. And, this is really a place where I think, you know, known partners and friends in the industry can gather, but of course folks can uncover some new opportunities for that collaboration as well. But for now, Crystal, thank you so much for taking the time
Thank
out. It was
you.
such a pleasure to chat with you.
You too. You too.
And to those of you watching, if you have any follow-up questions for us about the event, just drop us a line. And stay tuned for more conversations like this one. We'll be speaking to a few more speakers before we head out to Chicago. But that's it for us now. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.